Hey guys, XFL Mike G here, and I wanted to welcome you to part two of our expansion relocation project. If you haven't seen part one, I highly recommend you watch it to kind of catch up, but I'll kind of give you a brief breakdown of what we've done and what we're doing here. All right, so let me introduce you to our panel here. Myself, Viking Wax Press, aka Royce, Rick 8-Bit, Demarcus Colors, and Mike T. Bell all contributed in one way or another to this project. So we took this list of 50 and ranked all these cities. Everybody used their own criteria, their own formulas, and what have you, and it came up with a list of 50. So what we did is we had them ranked. We had the top 32 put together in a master list and determined by the rank, we put them into a bracket. Now, this is part two, so it's only going to cover Sweet 16 and up to the Elite 8. And when we go from the Elite 8 to the Final Four, we'll actually try to do something where we can involve fans and polls and things of that nature, have you guys vote on it, and your vote will actually count. And I'll touch more on that towards the end. So, like I said, we put all these cities into a ranking, and then we determined their position by that ranking, seeding everybody by that ranking. And then we had an elimination style debate where we voted on. We had everybody vote to determine their rankings, and then we matched them up by those rankings. And as you can see here, we're down to our Sweet 16. So what's going to follow is a presentation of myself, Rick 8-Bit, and Royce discussing and voting on moving on to the next round. All right, so please enjoy this presentation. It's going to look a little bit choppy because this was actually recorded in June and August, late June, early August, and we were still getting information. So some of this information has been updated. Some of it has been removed if it's no longer relevant. So it might seem a little bit choppy. I did the best I could with editing, but please enjoy this presentation.
I think that's a pretty excellent selection, to be honest.
I would agree. Yeah, for all five of us to come up with that top Sweet 16 is pretty spot on in my estimation. Yeah.
Definitely. And maybe the UFL should give us a call. We'll run your expansion for you. But no, on a serious note, it's run your expansion for you. But no, on a serious note, it's about what I thought it would be. Just looking at all these different factors that we had, what cities are viable as far as having a place to play, having a fan base, having somebody kind of waiting for them and raring to go. So without much ado, we're going to go on and we're going to continue with this bracket. This is round two, and this is how the bracket shakes down on the left side. Seattle, Seattle, Philly, 1-13. Portland and Tampa, 5-9. San Diego, 4-17 for Orlando. Salt Lake City at 8, and Canton at 21. Let's get right back into the votes. Seattle and Philly that's just going to be the easy one. We're not going to talk about Seattle anymore. If you guys have been watching this, we've already done Seattle, and we're saving the best part of that for last. But we're going to talk about Philadelphia. And my phone just shut off, so I got to pull up my notes again. Who had Philly? Let's see. Rick had Philly ranked the highest at number 8. 4 of us on the panel had Philly ranked in our top 12. Rick, if you want to drop some Philadelphia knowledge on us.
Yeah, so when I think Philadelphia with this, I instantly think the Stars. So you had the Stars, 2.0, but you also had the Stars in 83 and 84. And they were massive powerhouse. So they definitely earned their spot that way. They're also currently the reigning Super Bowl champions. As a Ravens fan, I got nothing to say on that, but I think they would be a good natural rival to DC, with that being so close. I also think of their football rivalry between the Eagles and the Commanders, and with both those teams going to the NFC Championship game, so that would help. My only thing is I don't know geography too much where they would be as a stadium. Lincoln Financial Field's massive. They held the World Cup games there. I don't know if they could put them in a spot small. That's the only issue.
I think with Philly, sorry, the MLS team uses Subaru Park, which is 18,500 seat capacity. So that might be a viable place for them. But they went against Seattle. That wasn't going to happen. They weren't going to beat the top seed Seattle. And I'm sorry, not sorry, Philadelphia. Royce, you want to throw any fuel on the fire there for Philly?
No, I love the option of Philly, but they were just against a juggernaut there. But Sam Mills, Jim Mora, the whole USFL 1980s vibe, Kelvin Bryant, it was a great team and just classic. So that's why I would love to see them return at some point and get back to that greatness.
Definitely. I mean, joke. I would like Philly to have a team because it's a viable market. And we've talked about the football fans in Pennsylvania, and as long as they're not as overly friendly like Eagles fans are, we'll let them in. That's my thinking on it. All right, so we're going to move down to two big cities here, Portland and Tampa. Those have always been on the lips of people talking about expansion. Number 9, Tampa, and number 5, Portland. Um, Portland is going to win that one, and it's a pretty interesting vote. Rick and Mike T. Bell voted for Tampa. Rick, you want to let us know about Tampa?
Yeah, when I think of Tampa, I think of the Vipers, and I think of also the Buccaneers. Raymond James Stadium would be good. I also have heard rumblings that Tampa Bay. You have different options. You have the soccer team down there. There's potential where they might be getting a new soccer stadium that would definitely fit what they're trying to do. I know Portland does have a soccer stadium, but I feel like Tampa. It's down south. You're talking Florida. I think it might be able to draw more than Portland. I think people were kind of thinking ahead and thinking what the next matchup would be, and I don't put them at fault, but I feel like Tampa definitely should have won this a little better.
And on that note, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I mixed up the brackets so you guys wouldn't be looking at your future potential matchups. I wanted you to vote strictly on those two. So I kind of mixed it up a little bit to kind of keep you guys on your toes. But I voted for Portland, but Tampa right now is an interesting market. It's potentially one of the cities that was mentioned in these rumors. Um, I've heard Tom Brady's name thrown around for various reasons, a couple of different reasons. Anybody have any valid information whether he's involved prior to his involvement with Mike Rapole and that branding? Does anybody else have any knowledge about him being involved in the UFL?
I just think they want. Put it this way: he was there for the original UFL championship game. I feel like they're trying to bank off his name as a draw. That's like, let's have a pop star by the name of Taylor Swift come around by football games and get everyone more interested in football. I think they're trying to pull off the name draw, especially with being Fox and everything. He's the lead analysis for Fox with their game, so I feel like it's one of those product placement things, but I feel like there's no definite to it.
Yeah, and it could be just wishful thinking. I've only heard it in social media circles where just everyday fans are saying Tom Brady in Tampa, Tom Brady in Tampa, and I don't know if they're drawing conclusions that they was wishful thinking or if it's something that's legitimate. And I haven't found any information. So, with his involvement with Michael Pohl, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, because we do eventually we're going to do an episode where we talk about what's going on, but we want to get this kind of handled first with our matchups and our brackets and who we think should be the next UFL cities. So we're going to move on. San Diego and Orlando and Salt Lake and Canton. We're going to talk about, obviously, we're going to talk about San Diego and Orlando. Orlando was swept, and I think that was just on the strength of San Diego alone. Rick had Orlando ranked the highest at number 5. Mike T. Bell and Royce both ranked Orlando at number 13. So either one of y'all can take that away.
I'll go. I did some big research on Orlando. Orlando has a huge history of spring football. You have the World League of Football. They have the Orlando Thunder. You had XFL 2001, the Orlando Rage. You had the Orlando Apollos with the AAF in 2019, which had the league best 7-1 record. And then you have the Orlando Guardians. They relocated from New York for 23. So there's
Yeah.
definitely a huge history in there. I feel like this is one of the cities that they've almost put a team in it for every single possible league. So I
Don't
feel
forget
like
the
now
original
you have to
USFL.
continue that streak.
Yeah, the original USFL had the Orlando Renegades, who moved from Washington. The Federals moved in '84 to play in Orlando in '85. So they've been around spring football since 1985. So I agree with that. Yeah.
Now they do have an MLS stadium that they could possibly play in, but I don't know the UFL's preference, and I'll ask you guys here in a second. So I just want to touch on they have it's called Entering Co Stadium, seats 25,500. But do they play there, or they try to go back to Camping World? I know Camping World is going to undergo some renovations. Does the league get a break while that's going on, or is it going to be more of the same? They're overpaying for a big facility that they can't fill. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Let's go
I
with
think they stay at that Interco Stadium. I mean, it works really well how the DC Defenders do it. And it's not like it's like a regular stadium. This is a stadium that after Camping World they did build this, so it's relatively new. It's going to put everyone closer to the fans, and it's going to give you the the fan experience. And actually, I just looked it up real quick. March of 2017 when it opened. So we're talking a stadium that's not even 10 years old. Camping World, they're going to have to do a lot to really get it up and running. And I feel like they know their history with how everything's been in that stadium. And right now they're trying to make sure if a game's on a stadium, they want it packed. And when they played in Orlando, I believe, I don't have the best memory, but I feel like they were only playing on half the stadium. If they
Yeah.
interviewed you, it was, hey, blank stands behind you. This is going to give you the DC effect that you want for television.
Yeah.
Definitely. And again, we don't know whether that facility is going to be available to us, whether they want to continue to pay what the cost of the facility is. Now, the cost of an older facility like Camping World versus the cost of a brand new facility, I don't know how much they differ. And it's interesting. Maybe we'll have to look that up. But Royce, you want to drop anything on Orlando?
No, kind of the same thing. I just worry that the way that they did not support the Guardians when they were in Camping World Stadium, that if they go back there, they would kind of have some of the same. So I almost think either they rebrand when they go back, or they change that stadium around, like the configuration to make it not so in the sun and allow people to be closer to the actual field. So they would have a lot of work to do to make it right.
Yeah, and that's another tough thing about these stadiums being so big. And if you're not familiar with the stadium and you're like, why are they always on one side of the stadium? It's because the way these stadiums are set up to have the sun setting on certain parts of the stadium to try to maximize your shade. And if you have a shady part of the stadium, you're going to put your home team there. Your home fans are going to sit behind them, and the cameras are going to be behind them as well. So you're looking out to the visitor side, and again, there's not going to be a lot of traveling fans. People aren't going to want to sit out in the sun versus the shade, and it's bad TV optics, and it's difficult to work with when you're looking at certain shots. But it's something I think they can manage. But do you want to continue to do that, or would you pay more to be in a newer soccer stadium?
Well, also, that soccer stadium is almost directly downtown, which would definitely draw well. If you think of how that area is, Camping World is a little bit of a distance. Um, I mean, it all depends on how they do it. If you do it right now, one of the biggest college bowl games is the Pop Tarts Bowl. Honestly, it's the only game I care about because I love what they do down there. If you do it right, where you bank it off of that, you got an absolute great shot. But it really all depends on how they market. If they're using that stadium, if they market it when you have a big event with Camping World, you might be able to draw more. But I mean, if people see a product and see how everything is, and you put them, hey, right now you're paying $200, but what if I told you $200 get you right there? Then it's going to money with the idea in people's heads. Hey, I'll sign up then. But it all depends on how they do it. They have to do it properly.
Definitely. And again, that'll be interesting where in Florida a potential team will end up, whether it's Tampa or Orlando. Both of them ended up really high on our list. Orlando would have been a little bit higher, but somebody voted them 33. I'm not going to call out anybody's names, but everybody else had Orlando ranked very, very high, as I did. But we're going to move on to the next matchup: Salt Lake City and Canton. Salt Lake City at 8 and Canton at 21. Canton was an upset winner. They got 2 votes from Mike T. Bell and from Rick 8-Bit. Rick, how do you feel about Canton and their matchup with Salt Lake City?
This is tough. Not St. Louis. Geez, Salt Lake City is up and coming as a sports city. With Canton, it doesn't really have anything major, but it has the ties with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I think that's kind of a smart move for them to function off of that, because it doesn't matter what season, you're always going to have people wanting to go to Canton. It could be any time of the year. It's a draw. And then you have live football there. Wow, something that's serious, that actually might draw a little more. If you're there for the Hall of Fame, why not go for a live game? So I think that might be a way for them to, that stadium also has gone through renovations, so it definitely is looking up. And the only thing with Salt Lake City I remember from when the AAF, it bugged me that they couldn't put the teams' names or anything. They had to keep it with the actual stadium with Utah and for the university. So I feel like Canton, they let them customize the field too when it was USFL. So if you can make it a personalized field, I feel like that's almost a no-brainer.
Definitely. And with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you're getting tourists. And hey, there's another football league, and it's recognized by the NFL and the Canton Hall of Fame. Royce, having been to the Hall of Fame, you want to speak on that Canton a little bit?
Yeah, I went last summer. It was an awesome experience, and I would have loved to have been able to catch a football game while I was there, because it is a destination place, bucket list thing for me. So I got to do it, and I just missed the USFL by a year, and I'm kind of bummed about that, because I would have loved to see them play, because the USFL had a great deal with them too. And honestly, when the USFL was there, they actually had some displays within the Hall of Fame, some USFL displays. They've since come down, unfortunately, and that's too bad, because they are a pro football league. So I don't see why they're not in there, but that's a whole nother, maybe I'll do a video on that. But I think that the thing with Canton is that it's a destination place that draws, and they have a big enough, they're 2 hours from Pittsburgh, 2 hours from Cincinnati, they're 2 hours from Cleveland, or less than 2 hours from Cleveland. So they have enough big cities to draw from. Even though it's a small town, it could work.
Definitely. And again, this is the third city from Ohio. Ohio is begging for professional football outside of the NFL, and this is a great market to be in. Unfortunately, they're not going to survive this matchup against Salt Lake City, but definitely they need to work out something. I hate making statements like that, but the UFL it would behoove the UFL to do something with Canton, either a preseason game, a championship game, scrimmage of some effect. There's these little things that they can start building up their brand and the awareness in that area, especially if they're going to be in Columbus, potentially.
Yeah.
But
I'm personally a fan of what the USFL did, where they had their championship game there. And if the UFL did that as a neutral spot, I think it was a little unfair to choose a UFL city to have the championship in, because if the Battlehawks would have made it and you would have had it in their own stadium, I just don't think that's a very good neutral way to do it. So I would love to see them have a neutral site like Canton, that they go once a year, play the championship game, or even if it's just a one game a year. If your Columbus team, now that you're going to have a team in Columbus, get them into Canton one game per season. I think it would be a great draw to get people to go to the Hall of Fame and catch a game.
Yeah, if they announced the championship game location at the beginning of the season, you're going to see more people heading that way. It's
Yeah.
great if you're following a team and we make it to the championship game and we're hosting. That's awesome. But, that's short notice. So only maybe the season ticket holders get advance notice and the rest of us have to kind of wait. But if it's a predetermined destination like the Super Bowl is, hey, and you get to see the Hall of Fame. That's a great idea and something that I think the league should definitely look into. All right, so
Imagine if they did a free scrimmage there for like an exhibition game. That would
definitely.
be brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant, because then you're drawing attention and it's free. Okay, that right there. If they think of outside the box ways to do advertising, it's literally right in their hands.
That'd be awesome.
Definitely. And like I said, something the league should definitely look into. But we're going to move ahead because we've got something to go through. Those are the results of the matchups that we just went through. This is the next section, round 2, section 2. Number 2, New Orleans versus 14 Chicago. Number 6, Louisville versus number 10, New Jersey. Number 3, Columbus versus Las Vegas. Number 7, Oklahoma City versus 11, Oakland. We're going to jump right into the results. We're not going to take too much time on that. So the top seed is New Orleans taking on Chicago. Everybody voted for New Orleans. Was anybody surprised that Chicago didn't get any votes?
I was a little surprised they didn't get any. Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
I think it was just a tough bracket for them to overcome.
Yeah.
I mean, Chicago has a history, and also Chicago, if there's rumble, not even rumbles, it's confirmed the Chicago Fire, they're going to make a brand new soccer-specific stadium in that area. So, I mean, that would be prime for them to piggyback and jump on and get their way in. But the hard part is the Breakers did well. The Breakers have such a good history with the USFL that that's almost a prime location to not pass up and go with.
Agreed. Yeah. Chicago's got the population, but I think, in fact, they probably have about 5 million more than New Orleans does. But they don't have the situation of being the sweet spot for what the UFL is looking for that the New Orleans market has right now. And I think actually New Orleans drew a better TV crowd for UFL games, if I remember right.
That is correct. Now, going back to what Rick was talking about real quickly before we forget about that stadium, there is a new stadium opening up, scheduled to open up in 2028 with a 22,000 capacity. So there's potentially a stadium there. They also have, it looks like, a SeatGeek stadium that seats 20K. But that market again, that Chicago market that's got those deep roots with the Bears. It would be interesting to see a city. It would be interesting to see a team in that particular market. I had them ranked at number 12, so I definitely see if the UFL was to expand to maybe 20 teams, Chicago being in that market. I had them ranked at 12. But again, New Orleans was just too strong in this bracket. I think every single one of us is going to vote every single time for them. Moving on to the 6 and 10 matchup, there was an upset. We had number 6 Louisville against number 10 New Jersey. And again, we did this. We started talking about this in May, and we sent out the forms in early July. So this was already set and determined a little while back. So I didn't want to change anything to make it look like we're trying to make ourselves look better than we are, and we're not. We're going to vote on these cities and based on what we feel. But there was an upset. Let's see, New Jersey, ranked number 10. Rick voted for New Jersey, so I'm going to let him validate his vote.
I mean, with this one, it just comes down to when I think of New York and New Jersey. I mean, being from the area, they play in New Jersey. They're the New York Giants, but they play in New Jersey. So I feel like there's also a couple soccer stadiums you could probably use, but once again, those are technically on the side of New Jersey. So that's why I went with that compared to Louisville. I mean, Louisville does have some history, especially with college football and everything. But I mean, I just think this was too much of a way. It was just it was too of an easier vote to go with New Jersey over Louisville.
Louisville, I actually had them ranked. Let's see, going through my notes here. I actually had them ranked number 3. Royce had them ranked number 4. Mike T. Bell had them 8, and DeMarcus had them at 10. Again, this was well before any of this rumors and talks had gone on. They do have an NWSL stadium that they can play in. It's called Lynn Family Stadium, and seats about 15,000. That Kentucky market, which is not too far from Ohio, there's a border right there. I've actually crossed over from Kentucky into Ohio, so I could go to my very first White Castle. So they're in close proximity there, and that market is booming as well. And to me, that market doesn't have anything else. It has college football and college basketball, and then what else? They don't have a professional team. So I really liked the idea of being in Louisville. Royce, you want to add anything on Louisville?
Well, I think I want to save mine for when we get to the next matchup. Oh, wait, Louisville's done. Huh? Okay, then yes, I will. So if Louisville's out, I hated to see Louisville dropped because I voted for Louisville to go through. I think they could have a huge tie-in with the horse racing venue there. And I also think the matchup with the Battlehawks could be huge because it's so close that if they teamed those two up as a rivalry, that's what I want to see. I really do. I want to see the Battlehawks against whatever team lands in Louisville. So that was a huge draw, even though I think New Jersey is a good venue too. Like, I would love to see the Generals come back. I'd love to see the New York Guardians come back as a team, but overall, I just couldn't pass up the potential rivalry that the Louisville could have with the Battlehawks.
Yeah, and they also finished number 4 in the UFL TV market rankings. So that was a big feather in their cap, I think, for a lot of us. It was for me. I started I did an expansion piece a couple of years ago, so they've been on my radar ever since then. Now we're going to move on real quickly, even though that was our third upset. I don't know if there's any more here. So those are the results. Oops. No, we didn't. We had number 3 Columbus against number 15 Las Vegas, number 7 Oklahoma City against number 11 Oakland. And I thought these were great matchups here. So let's talk quickly about the first one. Number 3 Columbus, number 15 Las Vegas. Las Vegas here lost the vote 3-2. DeMarcus had Las Vegas ranked the highest at number 9, followed by myself at number 12. Las Vegas, again, it's got the history of the Vipers and the tradition there that was kind of short-lived, and it felt like it didn't get a real good opportunity to get off the ground. Part of that was because of Cashman Field and where they were playing. And if you're not familiar, Cashman Field was a converted baseball stadium that it seemed like they were actively converting it up until kickoff, and sometimes where they had some really kind of janky scaffolding where the TV was shaking in one of the really bad storms that they had there. But that being said, I think if they had the proper time to fix that with the proper financial backing, it could be something that in the future. I know people are going to bring up Cashman where UNLV played. UNLV moved to Allegiant Stadium, home of the Raiders, and they had to sign a no compete clause for Sam Boyd. So nobody can play football in Sam Boyd. Nobody can play at the University of Las Vegas, Nevada. So that's why they can't use that facility. And that's part of the reason why I voted for Columbus over Vegas. Anybody else want to add any notes to Vegas?
I went with Vegas. Unfortunately, I'm on the losing side on both these. But I took Vegas because I feel like Vegas does have a history more for spring football compared to Columbus here. I know the original, I wouldn't say original, but we'll say XFL 3.0. The owners were big about Vegas. It has a pretty good central location, and Vegas is an up-and-coming sports city. I feel like if they get a proper stadium, they have a chance. You never know. Maybe they work a deal out with the A's once they land there. There's a possibility because that's a stadium that's also going to be domed. I don't know necessarily how much they will want the A's will want them, but considering the A's owner might be looking for money, he might be absolutely give me a couple bucks, you could play here. So I feel like that has a chance, especially. I'm a wrestling fan. They're now trying to put WrestleMania there for a second year in a row. They're definitely trying to do enough with Vegas that if you put a team there that has proper ownership and a proper stadium, the sky's the limit.
Yeah,
And it is a destination city too. Like people are going to be going there no matter what year round. So you'll have draw.
and I believe the city of Henderson is working to build a new soccer stadium within the next year or two, and I don't have confirmation on that. But for right now, I'm okay voting for Columbus over Las Vegas. And again, we'll go into Columbus and all that stuff later. So let's move on to the next. Oh, sorry,
one
go ahead.
quick note, real quick on Cashman Field, just because I was just researching it for an upcoming video I hope to do if I can find enough on it. But in the 65 through 69, the Continental Football Association, which was an all football league, had a team in Vegas and they played at Cashman Field. What was that? 60 years ago? No, a long time ago, 60 years ago. So they've been around that long. It's time for them to upgrade their setting. So if they can get a new stadium that's viable, I would say Vegas could be a good destination.
If I could add this too, I did some research in Cashman Field. They did some upgrades for the LA Lights where now they made it more of a, they did like a suite style. So you have now a potential now if you bake it off of, they redid the field, they put it in suites. They're really trying to make that stadium something for soccer. So they might really have a shot here.
I mean, I could probably do it, but it would take me forever and a day. But we're almost done. We're down to the very last matchup. I'm sorry, if you want to finish on Vegas real quick. Rick mentioned the Las Vegas Lights, and they are the team that's getting the new facility in Henderson. And then Royce was finishing up a point.
Actually, I think I was done with mine. I think I was good on what I was talking about Vegas. Sorry about that.
All right, no problem at all. So our very last matchup in a Sweet 16.
Oh, they really redid that field.
Went by pretty fast. Oakland and Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City advances 3-2. Rick voted with Mike T. Bell for Oakland. So let's talk Oakland. I know that's going to be some interesting conversation here.
Rick, I have 3 words: the St. Louis effect. If you look at St. Louis, what drives them? They're mad at their owner for picking up and leaving town. What's happened with Oakland? You've had the A's pick up and leave town. You've had the Raiders pick up and leave town. You have a stadium there, and you have fans. I mean, I almost became an A's fan just because of how everything was and the fans were, and they grew on me. And I feel like those fans are hungry for something. Next door, they had an arena that the Golden State Warriors left to go to San Francisco. And if you're factoring San Francisco, that area has a history with the San Francisco Demons getting all the way to the XFL championship game back in the day. So I feel like that area honestly can do really, really well. I don't know if they're going to get a new stadium for the soccer, but you have that Coliseum. I did know the soccer team did reconfigure it, so it does look better for TV for them. Keep it that way, and honestly, you have a very good chance to draw very well there.
It would be one of the most ironic things in history if you brought back the Oakland Invaders, because right when the Raiders left is right when the Invaders came in. So if you lose the Raiders again and bring the Invaders in again, it'd be amazing. Just saying.
Yeah, that whole Coliseum is kind of a sore point, kind of a touchy subject out there in Oakland. Recently, they just completed a transaction for one ownership group to own the complete facility. Up until recently, the city of Oakland owned half of it, and they finished selling the rest of it to one owner. And I believe they're going to do some renovations and turn it into a cricket facility. Cricket is one of the largest sports outside of the United States, and it's going to look, maybe that's going to look where they're going to try to get a toehold in a facility like that. But there's definitely some structural work and work to the facilities that needs to be done if they're going to hold professional matches there, whether it's cricket or soccer or even UFL football, that need to be addressed. That stadium is ancient and it's decrepit, unfortunately. So as much as we would love to see Oakland get a city, because we're all football fans, we love the city of Oakland, they've got to have a place to play. And for me, I voted for OKC just because I felt like they have more potential than Oakland, which is kind of reeling right now financially.
I agree.
All right. That's it. I wanted to look at the big bracket and get your thoughts on this. Just kind of going back over what we went through. Thoughts on any of it?
I really like where it's trending. You always hate to see some of those teams drop off, and I was a little surprised to see Louisville not make that top 8, but I can't really complain about any of the teams that did, so I think it's a great top 8.
I find it really interesting that you have almost West versus East, and we're not even trying to do that.
Right.
Yeah. And I purposefully didn't do it as a regional just because it would have added another layer to this. And I'm not going to lie, at times it's been overwhelming because it's a lot of information.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I want to get your thoughts on the Elite 8 matchups. Just real quickly, Seattle, Portland, and you don't have to give me your votes yet, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each one of these 4 matchups and make it a poll and put that on Facebook and Twitter and anywhere else we can get it. And then when we're going to do Elite 8 and Final 4 the next time we do a recording.
Elite 8, however you want to do it, but I like it.
All right, that's going to wrap up round 2 or part 2 of our expansion relocation project. We'll be going into the Elite 8 and the Final 4. Now, when it comes to the Elite 8, I wanted to involve you guys, you fans, and have you vote. So to look out for 4 different polls that's going to show all the different matchups that we have. We're also going to be adding Zone Fox, who's a new contributor to AFN as well, and have him come in and drop his insight on this. So be on the lookout. For part 3 coming up. We're going to try to do a live show. I'm going to see how many contributors I can get and put them together and keep them in one space to kind of debate and talk about this. Also, I look forward to your input as well. If you have a good comment under the poll, I might add it to the show. So make a good comment, make a strong comment based on knowledge and information as opposed to just emotional. We didn't want to do this strictly on emotions because then chop that. All right, and I will also be looking at comments underneath these polls. So if you make a good comment, watch the show, see if it'll come on, and we'll give you a shout out. Until then, I'm XFL Mike G. Thanks for watching.